Hey, this is Matt. Once again, welcome back to the videos. Another paid request. It's time for Jonathan. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos, topics, reactions, commentaries, reviews, re-reviews, what have you, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And this is for the 1994 film Timecop. Now, I'm a big fan of Timecop. I would say it is in my top 5 Jean-Claude Van Damme films. I'm a big Jean-Claude Van Damme fan. I grew up with the guy. Him and Sylvester Stallone. There's a lot of action stars I would watch when I was a kid. From Arnold, Dolph Lundgren, Chuck Norris, early Steven Seagal, even Jeff Speakman. But Stallone and Van Damme were the two guys I watched the most. And my favorite Van Damme films would be films like Hard Target, Universal Soldier, Bloodsport. But Timecop I would put there in the top 5 because I like the concept, which was, I know this was a comic book from, I want to say Dark Horse Comics. So it is a comic book movie. And by that definition, then it'd be one of my favorite comic book movies. I know there was a video game. I never played the video game for that long. It seemed pretty damn terrible, though. And it's directed by Peter Hyams, which I'm a big fan of that director. Because his filmography, not many that I disliked, for the most part. He has a very solid filmography. Running Scared with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines is an entertaining buddy cop film. 2010 is a worthy sequel. It's hard to make a sequel to 2001: A Space Odyssey and to make a sequel to a Stanley Kubrick film, but I think Peter Hyams made the right choice to just make a more straightforward but very solid science fiction flick with political about the Cold War, America and Russia, but much more manageable and it was palatable at the time, but it wasn't preachy. You could view it as preachy, but to me it wasn't annoying or anything. It was still a nice sci-fi tale with a wonderful cast. Roy Scheider, John Lithgow, I think Helen Mirren was in that. 2010, really enjoy that one. Stay tuned, fun comedy with John Ritter about John Ritter and his wife going through all these TV channels, but they're TV channels from hell. Dwayne's Underworld, Driving Over Miss Daisy, Northern Overexposure, all that stuff. Let's see, End of Days with Arnold is one of my favorite Arnold films. The Relic, monster movie I highly enjoy with Tom Sizemore, may he rest in peace. Of course, he did Timecop. Outland, my favorite Sean Connery film. Just a lot of wonderful stuff. So, also this was produced by Sam Raimi, because Sam Raimi at the time had to deal with Universal, because Sam Raimi directed Darkman, and then Army of Darkness was released by Universal, and then he produced Hard Target, and then produced this. That'd be an interesting thing to ask Sam Raimi, is how did you involve producing Van Damme films? Because, okay, the first, maybe Hard Target, is to work with John Woo, but then you also produce this one as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Now, I don't know if Sam Raimi did anything. He was a producer, or just put his name on it. I don't know. And the concept. The concept is a franchise-worthy concept. This should have been Van Damme's franchise. Just like Stallone had Rocky and Rambo, Arnold had, in a way, Conan, 2 movies, and The Terminator. This should have been Van Damme's franchise. Timecop 2, which there was one, starring Jason Scott Lee from directing the Bruce Lee story, which went direct to video. And then you had a short-lived TV show of Timecop. But this should have been Van Damme's franchise. Timecop 2, Timecop 3, Timecop 4. Because you could go anywhere. You could play up any time period, any way of changing the future. And if not that far back, but then like to the 80s or to the 70s, or it took place in 2004. So 2001, 2005, I mean, maybe somehow you do get to the future and wow, there's something weird going on. How were we able to do this? And I think there's a lot of these to play with. People mess with time, and a guy goes in there to fix it, and get some Van Damme tits in there, 360 tits, kicking ass, taking names, all that jazz. But sadly, that was not the case, because Van Damme had a problem with drugs, also his ego. He this almost a split personality, but it's not that. It's bipolar disorder. Mixed with cocaine is an ego is a destructive combination. So Timecop did well, but Timecop was his biggest hit as a star. But when you look at the numbers, it's not as big as you think. It made about 40 million in the US, 40, 45. It made 100 million worldwide, which for Van Damme that was successful. But when you looked at, say, other action stars, or even other movies, 40 million in the US doesn't sound like much. Especially when you compare to movies today. Even movies back then, it was still a hit and successful for Van Damme, but it wasn't. Because I know Van Damme said this in that documentary series he did, Behind Closed Doors, that he was out of his mind and he told Universal he should get a $20 million paycheck per movie like Jim Carrey. Because I think he got that in 96, Cable Guy. And so Van Damme heard about that, and they're like, no, you're not getting it. Which was stupid of Van Damme. Even Van Damme admitted that was stupid of him to say. It was a mistake. Because number one, you're demanding stuff from a studio. A studio will only take so much as long as you're making money for them. But again, Van Damme's biggest hit made 40 million in the US. Jim Carrey's films were making like 100 million in the US. If you're talking about like The Mask and Dumb and Dumber. Even Ace Ventura, I think, made what, 70 million maybe? If that? 70, 80? In the US alone. So Jim Carrey, he's part of Batman Forever, which made a lot of money. His movies were making a lot more money than you, Van Damme. So I get it. If you make a movie and it made your best made 40, let's say 45 million. If you get a $20 million paycheck, it's not really much profit for the studio. I mean, maybe if your films were making 100 million in the US alone, maybe they would think about it, but that wasn't the case. But Van Damme even admitted that was his own fuck up. And while this film is not as action-packed as, say, Hard Target, I do like the story. I do like the look of the film. Peter Hyams is a cinematographer as well, so when you look at the film, there's a lot of low lighting and usage of darkness, whether it be in Van Damme's apartment when people are coming in to try to kick his ass and kill him. And like I said, watch it again, you definitely see the Peter Hyams look. The same type of look he would bring to The Relic, among other movies. He has a certain way of lighting, especially low lit with the cinematography. So, it's definitely one of the better looking Van Damme films. I like Van Damme with the long hair. People make fun of him for it, because of the extensions, but I liked him with the long hair. I think it's a cool look for him. I wish I had that look. And I like the story. I like the story that he's with his loved one, played by Mia Sara, Ferris Bueller's girlfriend from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And they're enjoying their time, and at the beginning you wonder what's going on, because they get back home, these thugs come in, they try to kill Van Damme, but he had a bulletproof vest. He's wondering what's going on, he tries to save his wife. The house gets blown up, he gets blown back. And it's so nice when you watch a film and the explosions, there's no CGI addition to it. Because even if they mostly do an explosion, but they add like a CGI dust particles or little CGI addition, you can still tell, and it kind of ruins the full effect of that explosion. So it's nice just to watch, yeah, they just blew shit up. They knew what they were doing, they made sure it's safe, and then just blow the shit out of it. Get a stuntman, maybe get some wires, pull them back, Cool looking shot. And before that, I should mention even the opening scene where you're in the days of the Civil War and there's these Confederate soldiers and gold for General Lee, and this guy's like, I want your gold. Can I have your gold? Can you please give me the gold? And he pulls out these heavy duty machine guns, which is a good shot because he kills all the guys, but he misses all the horses. Just think about it, you're firing wildly machine guns, and they hit all the guys, but they miss all the horses. It's one of those funny things that when you think about it, you go, wait, how the hell did that work? If he's firing blindly, wouldn't some of those bullets hit the horses? But you can't kill the horses. Although, I mean, there should be a movie that does that. And, like, it'd be hard to do, but maybe, like, make some practical horses that get some practical... Like, you have the real horses in a wide shot, but then up close, bullet hits, and then maybe, like, a fake horse, like, falling down along with the... There'd be a lot of work to put into it, but... I'm just saying, it's one of those things you think about, but you just go along with it. Like, yeah, he just was a good shot. He blindly fired the machine, but he was a good shot. You know, shh. Don't think about it. But I like that setup because it that tells you the whole thing. Is that okay? You think it's going to be a hijacking, but then you see this high tech weaponry. You go, okay, something's up. Oh, the title. The title tells you the whole story. And also, one thing I don't want to forget is before the inciting incident with Van Damme and his wife, I like the bit in the mall where the purse snatcher, Van Damme just lifts his leg up and it's a nice wide shot. Read it. No, between Wolverine, between the lines. Oh. I should get the fuck out of here. Yeah. That purse don't look good on you. Nice bit of humor. I didn't think it was too goofy, too silly, too cringeworthy. It made me chuckle. It still made me laugh. You know, you see what Van Damme can do, but at the same time, you bring a bit of humor to it, a bit of levity before the shit show happens with what happened with his wife. And I even like the bit in 1929 where this guy, he doing pretty good on Wall Street, but you realize something's up when he's putting, at that point, high-tech headphones in. Although nowadays, even those headphones would be nostalgic. And then Van Damme comes in with the portal, which I like the look of that. And people try to beat him up. And you get some nice Van Damme action bit. Again, it's nothing extravagant, but you get Van Damme kicking hidden guy. There's one guy that's trying to beat him with a lamp, and he does a split. He just grabbed, he goes, flips off the wall. He breaks the lamp thing, beats a shit out of the guy with two sticks. Takes his ass. takes his ass home, so to speak. Fucks his day up. And pretty much, he takes a guy, goes back. Guy doesn't want to say what's really going on because, as he puts it, if I tell you, then my family's going to be screwed. My family's going to be killed. But Van Damme knows that the senator, played by Ron Silver, rest in peace to him, wonderful character actor, worked well as a villain. He was also the villain in this Jeff Speakman film called Daily Outbreak. He was the villain in Blue Steel. He was in Chuck Norris's Sound Rage. Again, good actor. Makes for a wonderful villain, slimy. Just a good actor. Brings a bit of personality to his role. And, like I said, just a good bad guy. You need that kind of thing for this movie. You need a good bad guy. And again, the elements, like Bruce McGill, as Van Damme's captain, his chief, his boss. He's a nice bit of levity and humor, but I did nothing too goofy. You tell that they have a nice rapport with each other. Where, I mean, if you got evidence, you gotta have enough proof to flood up the Potomac River. Hey, you know, you're allowed to have a life. I read in the manual someplace. Oh, he has people bought off the senator? Well, he doesn't have me. He said he doesn't have me. Well, fuck you then. Hey, you know, when you said that, by the way, when I said that, you should have said, I know that. And like I said, Bruce, it's nice that you don't have the typical screaming police chief, you're fired, you're off the job, give me your badge. You don't have the typical screaming. I like that the boss is actually friends with Van Damme, and they actually have a close friendship with each other. I thought that was a nice, different change of pace. And I like Bruce McGill. He was in The Last Boy Scout. He was a guy that slept with Bruce Willis's wife, and Bruce Willis asks, he says the line, "Oops, yeah, I know it was a mistake. You tripped and your dit fell on my wife, yeah. But hey, just ain't my day." So, tell me, man, how many fingers would you cut off to sleep with my wife? The guy that cheated with Bruce Willis' wife was Bruce McGill. He's been in other stuff, too. Again, good character actor. There's a sprinkle of some decent action set pieces. There's a apartment fight where these two guys try to fight Van Damme, and you have this one guy played by James Liu, and they get in this knife fight, and Van Damme does some nice kicks to him, and you have this guy with a taser, and Van Damme gets up, and this water had been dropped and pools under the bad guy's feet, so when the guy shoots, Van Damme does the split on the counter, and guy gets electrocuted. I like the staging of that. I thought the director filmed that well with the angles he used. And hey, Van Damme could do that. Let's make this scene a bit more interesting and unique. He could do the splits on the counter. People may think it's silly, but it's memorable, and I thought it was fun. I thought it worked well for the scene. It was like, yeah. Use brain in the splits. There you go. So I liked that. He gets a new partner who's with Internal Affairs, Gloria Rubin. I didn't mind this actress either. I don't know what else she's done, but I thought she was likable enough. Not a bad actress at all. One thing I always thought was weird, and watch it again, they have this bit set up to go back in time where you have the pods, where they enter in it as like a shuttle, to shoot to this wall. And as we did this kind of fun thing where you see those two red dots, try to tell the girl that those were two guys that didn't work and their brain got smashed on the thing, and they did clean up the blood, or they did as much as they can. There's still two permanent red marks on there. The Vollmer twins. But okay, when the pod goes through, what happens to the pod? What I mean by that is, when the pod goes through in time, and you have this nice ripple effect, when they go to the destination, the pod is gone. Like, at this point, they fall into the water. Another point, you have that great shot for the trailer where Van Damme comes out, and he's almost run over by the truck. He gets on his face down. Where does that pod go? Why does that pod disappear? Why does that pod just disintegrate? I never thought of that, but now I question how, why? Like, why, what happens to it? Why? And they don't need a pod to get back either. So there are some logistics that you kind of wonder about, like, why do we need this big pod to go back in time, but then to go back to your time, you just hit a button and you go through? I mean, if it's that easy to go back, wouldn't that be easy to go forward? If you need a pod to go forward, how could the pod then land with them? How come it like how does that work where you go through time and then does the pod disappear and your seatbelts disappear and we'll go back to oh shit, you know. How does that work? Yeah, it's these questions I ask watching it now, older going. If someone could explain that to me, I don't know if that's in the comics or what, but it doesn't make any sense when you think about it for a minute. It's like, go back. If someone could explain it to me, be my guest. I mean, it doesn't ruin the film or anything. It's just one of those things I thought, like, yeah, but it is what it is. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but it looks cool. And I think that's what the Simon was, to look cool. And yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I know it's time travel, it doesn't exist, but it's just like, okay, we go forward, we need this big jet propulsion pod thing, it just disappears, but we don't need the jet pod to go back. Whatever. But again, what makes the film work is Van Damme at the height of his career, despite how many people want to badmouth him, how many martial artists want to make fun of him, there's a reason why he was a star. He had the it quality, he had the star factor, he had the charisma, he had the look, he had a good look to him. When he did his kicks and punches, he knew how to make that look as wonderful as he can on camera. The punches, the kicks, the fluidity, the agility made it look great on camera. So it didn't look sluggish, it didn't look rough, it didn't look uncoordinated. I love when Van Damme did his noises. Yeah! People make fun of that. I think the exact opposite. I think they bring a much more passion. So it's not just a mannequin doing moves. There's a human behind it. So he's going to have passion. He's going to have anger. He's going to be, yeah, come on. I like that. It brings a bit, they say, humanity to the fight. Passion, anger. It's another little addition did you into a fight bit. Then spoilers. I mean, this is a film that, now that I think about it, 94. Damn, 30 years old now. This movie's going to be 30 years old. Wow. Just 2024. Wow, 30 years old. It's one of those scenes where, I don't know, man. I miss movies like this, where it's a big budget movie, but then we get some good old school action fight sequences like this. And I mean, it's a comic movie, but it's not just another superhero movie and such. I don't know. I just, if they ever made a movie like this again, it would just go straight to streaming. I don't know, I'm just shows how big difference 30 years are. Again, this film, this exact same film probably would not be in theaters today. It probably would have gone to Netflix or something. That's just the truth of the matter. But yeah, I like the bit when he gets fucked over. The internal affairs is actually working with Ron Silver, and the shootout happens. And I like the bit where he fucks up the guy with the big wrench. I like the bit where he frees the guy's arm and kicks the arm off. The effect might not look as great compared to today, but it's 1994. I do like that they use an actual mannequin. Like, they use a physical thing for the body to fall to its death. It's bad enough to have your arm and side busted off after being frozen. You also have the bit where you fall down like a open banana peel, just thrown into the garbage. And when he goes back, things have changed. And anytime you do a movie involving time travel, there's always going to be questions that you're thinking about. There's always going to be questions that you're pontificating about. For example, okay, you have a problem with Walker. Why don't you go back to when... That's Van Damme's character, Walker. Why don't you go back to when Van Damme's character was a kid and killed the kid? Why don't you go back to he's a child. Why don't you go back to where he was born and the baby's killed? Or go back to where the mom's pregnant, you kill the mom when she's pregnant with the kid, and then you kill Van Damme, not worried about it. I mean, that's because in this time frame, the reason we saw the bad guys at the beginning is because they went back to kill Van Damme's, him and his wife before he joined the police force. To me, yeah, there's a lot of elements you could think of it. It just as, but you think that with every time travel. You think that with Bill and Ted. You think of it with Back to the Future. Anytime you're dealing with time, there's always going to be story points that you kind of question. Go, why don't they do this? Why don't they do that? You either go along with it, or you pick it apart. To me, what I enjoy about the story was a guy getting a second chance to save his wife. And like when he gets back, and you got two Van Dammes. Nice trope there. Just like you had two Van Dammes in Double Impact. You later have two Van Dammes in Replicant. You have another two Van Dammes. And again, this guy getting a second chance to save his wife. Now, the finale is not as action-packed compared to a lot of these type of movies. Because you think of movies, even the same year, you look at Speed. You look at True Lies. You look at other movies of that time period. And they have much more bombastic, bigger finales. While here, much more of a smaller finale, if you think about it. There's a house. The younger Van Damme and Mia Sara are kind of trying to get away from the bad guys, and at one point they're hanging from the roof. The other older Van Damme is kind of stealth. There's only a couple bad guys, kind of one hand. Now, I like the bits with it. Van Damme grabs the guy's gun, turns it, and the guy's like, oh shit, and shoots the guy with his own gun. That was a fun scene. There's a bit where Van Damme's fighting a guy, and there's a nice roundhouse kick to the face. There's a bit where he gets revenge on this guy, where he grabs the butt of a gun, beats it. I did that. Why don't you sleep on it? Which is what the guy told the younger Van Damme earlier in the film. So the older Van Damme remembers that, and then this guy says the same line, and then Van Damme goes, yeah, I did that. Beats the shit out of the guy and breaks his neck. I like the way that was staged. You got the rain coming down, so I like the way it was photographed. So, but like I say, it's not wall-to-wall action like Hard Target or even Universal Soldier. I mean, to be honest, that's like one battle, to be fair. So I guess that's not really fair to say. What I'm saying is, like, compared to other action films, if you're expecting like this big cataclysm of action, you may not get that. You may be surprised it's a bit smaller. But again, I thought it worked because I liked the story it was telling. Where Van Damme goes to save his... The younger Van Damme's been pretty much knocked the fuck out. The older Van Damme goes in to save his wife. Ron Silver's there. And then Van Damme outwits him. And brings the younger Ron Silver from that time period there. And I like the line where Ron Silver had made fun of him earlier about that kick-in and Broadway. That's the only reason that kick-in's for. And then Van Damme goes, I'm still kicking. I must be on Broadway. And kicks the younger into the older, and they kind of merge. Now, it's effects that are 1994 effects, but at the same time, it didn't bother me as much as it maybe would other people. Sadly, I've seen much worse morph effects. I think just how weird it is, where it's like, okay, they can't be too gory because it's probably not their drive, but at the same time, it just looked unique enough that it worked for me. And then, he gets back and everything's fixed up, and not only is his wife alive, but you realize he's got a kid, and must be a hell of a catch up to go through, okay, this is what my kid is, and this is all the stuff I missed. So it's a nice ending. It's a nice ending to the movie. I think that's what I liked about it. I liked the concept. I thought the production values were fairly high for a Van Damme film. The direction, I thought was well lit. I thought kept at a good pace. It's not a long film at all. It's about 90 some minutes long if you take out the end credits. Ron Silver makes a good bad guy. Like I said, I'm sure there's some logistics of the time travel that will make you scratch your head. It did for me. It's like, okay, the pod thing, I talked like 5 minutes about that. Yeah, I would like to have seen a bit more action in the third act, and maybe a bit more maybe there were more mercenaries, more bad guys for Van Damme to fight across this farm where there's more bad guys, and maybe like a little bit more shooting, a little bit more fighting, a little bit more ass kicking. Maybe that would have been nice to see. But with that said, it was a good package of a sci-fi film for Van Damme to show what he can do, and also to tell a bit more of a story, so it wasn't just constant fighting and stuff. Not that there's anything wrong with that. So I do wish this was a franchise, a Van Damme franchise, I mean. But again, the next film these two did was Sudden Death. That did not do well. And while I liked Sudden Death, I don't love it because of the constant Van Damme doubles during the fight scenes. It's understandable during dangerous stunt work, but I don't understand why every fight scene there's some of Van Damme, but then there's some of a very obvious double doing simple punches or kicks. Like some is Van Damme, but then some is the double. And some Van Damme, some is the double. That's the worst offender, probably Sudden Death for me. And I'm sitting there going, why is this the case? Like, this is what we're kind of, you're paying your ticket for. And yeah, if it's a dangerous stunt, that's a different matter, but that's probably, if I ever met Peter Hyams, that'd probably be the one question I would ask. He'd probably get pissed about, but I'm like, I'm not asking to make fun of you. I'm asking because I'm sincerely curious as to what happened. Was that Van Damme heavily in his coke days, more so? Because he was doing coke, but is that even more so and he just couldn't be on set? So bring in the double to do half of the fucking fight scenes. So, but I do like that film, but just that, especially if you watch it on Blu-ray, and it's much more noticeable. It's annoying. But that didn't do well. The Quest was a flop. And then pretty much Universal dumped him after that. Because he's making these $20 million demands. And I'm like, you're not worth it because your films are not making money. Your last two films bombed. Sudden Death and The Quest. And then no more Universal, thus no more Timecop sequels. And then worked to do Double Team and Knockoff. Those were bombs. Try to come back with Universal Soldier: The Return, which I like that movie. I think that's an entertaining one. That bombed. And then strictly direct-to-video after that. So, which again, there's some of those that are pretty good too, but it is what it is. But at least we got this one. Deserves a Blu-ray that's worth a shit. Like, come on, man. The Blu-ray I have is a 2-pack with it and I think Bloodsport on the same disc. I'm sure overseas you could get Timecop by itself, but this needs an MVD or Tino Lorber full-fledged Blu-ray. 4K perhaps as well. Hard Target got it, so maybe Timecop will get it one day. It deserves it. I think Sudden Death got a Blu-ray. Or maybe it was going to, but I don't know what happened to it. I don't know. I mean, Sudden Death is on Blu-ray. I have it. I just thought it was going to get like a newer one. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But it is on Blu-ray by itself. But Timecop deserves a better release. Come on now. But with that said, thanks for watching. Thanks once again, Jonathan. Take care. And we'll see you guys later.